All right, Laurie. So we are starting off with a speed round today.
Dun,
I have a
dun.
couple questions for you to see, just to better understand you and to share with our audience. So starting right at the top, what is favorite book?
East of West. I
East
don't know
of
if you guys are
West.
familiar with East of West. It's a graphic novel, Jonathan Hickman. Let me see if I can pull up an image of it for you guys. It's an image. It's
Okay.
an image story. So it's Image Comics, not like DC or Marvel, but it's about the four horsemen of the apocalypse.
Oh my God, I
And
absolutely love that already. The
I,
the Horsemen Apocalypse are so cool.
and it's huge influence on my writing as well. But death was abandoned by the other three horsemen, and they
And I
get
had that pulled.
reincarnated through time. And death gets reincarnated. I'm sorry, the other three get reincarnated, and death is not there. Hi, Carrie. And so what is Death's mission? He's going through this world, and this world is so different from our own. It was like if the future happened from the Civil War. So we have the United States is broken up into all these different territories. We have the Confederacy, we have the Freeland, we have California, which is is owned by the Chinese. We have like Louisiana Territory is owned by the freed slaves, and then we have this endless nation of Native Americans. So it's broken up into factions, and we have cults, and we have espionage, and we have this just huge story overarching is death and where is he going and what is he doing.
And who doesn't love that type of story,
Yeah.
especially with all the resonance in modern society?
Yes.
Absolutely love that.
And it's
So
beautiful too. The art is beautiful. The
I
story
can totally
writing is
tell,
great, but the
especially with
art,
this, like,
I
especially
mean,
with that artwork. I absolutely love that. I think that's very,
is
very
just
cool.
gorgeous. If you are looking for a new book to read, just go ahead and pick up the whole dang thing because you're gonna be hooked.
So speaking of favorite story, this might actually go in hand with the same question. What
Yeah.
is your favorite TV or film franchise?
There's a lot of good ones.
I know. I saw so many listed on your socials. I'm like, which one would she
Yeah,
pick?
TV is well, I love any kind of apocalypse genre. So I watched all the Walking Deads.
Okay.
And I've read them all as well. But stuff like that, like anything apocalypse. I loved
Ooh.
Fallout when they did that.
Yes, I'm like,
Last of
thank you for
Us.
finally doing a TV show. Last of
Yeah,
Us and Fallout. Thank you for finally doing two TV shows that are very
they're
relatively
very
faithful
well
to the source
done.
material. Thank you. Thank
Yes.
you, world.
And they're done well, you know what I
Mhm,
mean? It's like if you've played the video games or if you've
mhm.
lived in the world for a little bit and then you see it done, they did them really well and they added new stuff, but they did it in the spirit of how, the games were and
Mhm.
are, and that's why they were really, really popular. They didn't change everything. One that I think that they misstepped was World War Z. I love the book. The movie
Oh,
was
yeah, they
something
effed up
completely
World War Z
different.
so much. Well, it's because they tried to make it more of like an action, like a Brad Pitt
Yeah.
action piece instead of relating to the source material, but World War Z as a book was
I
that's a
know.
hard book to adapt faithfully because it's literally the book itself is
Mm,
literally just a series of interviews and conversations and recordings. It's like
yes,
it's
but they
awesome.
could have done it as, like, a Netflix series or an
Oh, they
Amazon
totally could
Prime,
have.
where
They
one
totally could have.
one
Mhm,
episode is, like, one chapter where
mhm,
they're talking about it, like, I can see them, like,
mhm,
Interview with the Vampire style, where they're talking
mhm.
in the beginning, and he's interviewing this person, and then it switches to the live action replay of
Absolutely,
what this
completely
person
agree.
went through. So I
I
think
think
it
it's
could have
just one of
been done.
those examples where somebody picked up the adaptation and they're like, "Well, we got Brad Pitt to attach. All right,
Hey,
it's gonna be a Brad Pitt action
hey.
film." And I'm like, "Yeah, it could have been done way, way better." Completely agree. Uh,
Um, Breaking Bad is another one of my
ooh, yes,
favorites
yes, yes,
because
yes.
it's so
Breaking
well
Bad, one of the
done.
best all-time written
Endings.
shows. Mhm.
One of the best, and I always compare when we talk about endings, do you want a Lost ending or do you want a Breaking Bad ending? That, my friends, is planning. You plan in advance, you get your people, to come along for the journey, but then you have the fan payoff and you close up all the ends and everybody gets the final FU from the character. and we're done. We're out, right? There's no more. That's the way you do an ending. Breaking Bad, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I absolutely love Breaking Bad. Carrie is like, uh-oh, Breaking Bad talk here.
Oh, we'll move on. We'll move on. I promise. I know it sparks feelings.
Great question. And then let's see, what is your biggest writing pet peeve?
Writing pet peeve. When other people do it?
Yes.
Well, let's talk about Lost, shall we?
Oh my
When
goodness.
there is no plan for the story, it's just kind of like throw something at the wall and see if it sticks for this next issue or this next chapter or this next book. When there isn't a plan, like I'm one of those, I guess you would call it a plotter. There's plotters and pantsers, right? I'm a plotter. I usually start with the beginning and then I then move on to the ending. And then I figure out the middle. But everything that I do, why is my camera not focused? Everything that I do is so that it makes sense. It's not like I'm introducing this character as now speaking French in the 17th chapter in order to, code break something in French. It's like, we didn't know that. It doesn't make sense. Like, don't put random plot points in there that haven't been set up and that don't serve the story. So
I know.
we meandered to Lost.
I think they had an idea for the core story.
What was the zoo about?
I think each season they started getting more questions and they started trying to branch out in different directions. And then they hit seasons 3 and 4. And they finally hit this point where like, okay, we have to wrap up the show, but now we have too many unanswered questions. And they get to that finale and it's debatable on whether or not you like their finale. Like, okay, sure, they're all gone. None of it mattered. Sure, let's just go with that one. It's so debatable.
That's the difference between like TV writing and all other writing. Because TV writing, they're like, oh, you've been given another season, but for how long? You know what I mean? And a lot of times they're like, you need to wrap it up in 2 episodes, and you're like, what? Like I can't do that. And they're like, well, you got to figure it out, man. And they were like, well, everybody's dead and it was a dream. There we go. That's the end.
And trust me, my 2 biggest pet peeves for shows that bug me of all time is Lost and Game of Thrones. For endings.
Game of Thrones, same thing where it was just
those are always the 2. But Breaking Bad, one of the best endings of all time because it serves the character. The character, he gets the end that he deserves.
Yes, I agree. I think up there on that crap list is now Umbrella Academy.
I didn't actually watch the last season because it got so many mixed reviews. I think I just didn't get around to it. But I wanted to like it. Umbrella Academy had a really strong early run. And I would even argue that some of their middle seasons were decent. But it wasn't anything that was incredible.
Was like one of those, that drawing of a horse? Where like it's beautiful in the first, section. In the second half, it's like, it's an okay sketch. And then by the time it gets to the final, it's just like a stick drawing of a horse. Like just looks terrible. That's, to me, how Umbrella Academy went. And like, it was good. It was okay. It was, what are we watching? And the last one, I was like, what the F? What was the point of all this then?
Oh, that hurts. That hurts a little bit, but I'm sure I will check it out eventually, which this then leads to my next great question, which is I'm sure why everybody is here. What is the secret to crowdfunding?
There is no secret. It's all hard work, people. No, the secret is to plan ahead. You feel like you can just pop it off and everybody will come and I'll talk about it and people will come. There is a lot of planning that goes into crowdfunding. There's a whole plan that we can go through about what you do before, how far out do you do before, how to gauge your success of your marketing before you launch. And then after you launch, what's your plan for every single day that you are live?
Oof. Well, I absolutely love that, Laurie, because we're absolutely going to be digging into that. But before we do, I'd like to welcome you to the Create Right Now podcast. Today, we have a special episode where we're going to be diving into how to do a crowdfunding campaign. Laurie is my guest today. She has successfully done it multiple times, earning well over $30,000 in her crowdfunding journey so far. So we'll be hopping into that. But first, Thank you and welcome to the Right Now community. I'm Kauffman and I'm a daily writing live streamer. I'm on a mission to help the writers of the world with the process, lifestyle, and mindset that it takes to be an author or creator. Today marks day 310 of consecutive writing live streams, and we are just getting started. So come join us because we're starting right now. And by the way, if you're watching this on the replay, I got you covered. After the stream ends, time codes will be added to the part of the stream so that way you can hop to the questions that bring you the most value. So if you're thinking about doing a crowdfunding campaign, I know like we're probably gonna have to watch this episodes many, many times because Laurie is so knowledgeable. And let me just welcome everyone into the stream. ML, welcome, my friend. Courtney, bringing it in. Carrie, glad to have you in here from Laurie's audience. Welcome. And then let's see, George, thank you. For some reason, the Facebook thing doesn't give me the names anymore. It's through StreamYard. I'm like, Facebook, what are you doing to me? And Lou, welcome. I can see on Facebook, I have William Pace, Pops Van Zant, Brad Ship, and DM Ray. Welcome to the stream, my friends. All right. So for today, we're going to be breaking this conversation down into a couple sections. We're first going to dive into Laurie's journey so far. How did she go from being a martial arts master to being a crowdfunding success? Then we're going to be breaking it down step by step. Laurie's strategy behind preparing for a crowdfunding campaign for any of you who are thinking about doing crowdfunding yourself. And then we'll be going into the step-by-step process of what the crowdfunding campaign itself has looked like and how Laurie has found so much success for her series, Path of the Pale Rider. And then make sure you stick around till the end because we're going to be doing a live reading of Path of the Pale Rider issue number 1. So it'll be super cool. We'll be pulling it up here on the stream. Laurie and I will be doing it together, and then we'll do a Q&A. So if there's any questions that you have for Laurie, make sure to drop them down in the comments. So we'll try to get to them if it doesn't interrupt the flow during the conversation. Otherwise, I'll save them for the Q&A at the end. So that way you can get help with your next crowdfunding campaign. All right. And without further ado, so Laurie Calcaterra created and wrote the popular comic series Path of the Pale Rider. The series started in 2018 as a short and was later adapted into a comic series due to the nature of the content. Charter Comics picked up Laurie and Path of the Pale Rider in September 2022. This series has now gone through 5, and I think 6 major successful crowdfunding campaigns, averaging well over 30,000 in backer donations. Martial arts, sci-fi, and horror buff, and podcasting enthusiast. Please help me welcome to the stage, Laurie Calcaterra. Welcome.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome.
Yeah.
I know. And I always like to give the welcome to everyone. Laurie, thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me. We met on a podcast on someone else's podcast and hit it off, and we were like, we should talk more about our journey.
I know. I was like, every single time I talk to you, Laurie, I have like a million questions. And I know the last time we talked, I'm like, all right, let's just turn this into a podcast episode. So, and I'm thinking like, okay, then we can at least bring value to others who are trying to do crowdfunding for their stories.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, perfect. And by the way, Lou was like, Umbrella Academy should have been better.
Yeah,
I agree. You know what? There's a lot of shows that should have been better, my friend. Carrie was like, have you a channel link, Jared? Thank you. Laura, since she's in your stream, you'd have to drop. But Carrie, essentially, you can find me on the Right Now YouTube channel. If you just type in Right Now, one word, it's the first one that pops up. I'm like, woo, still the first one.
Ooh, good awesome. SEO. That's
I know, great. Right? For now, we'll see how long it lasts before I get other knockoffs. All right. Awesome. So as we're hopping into this, I think what I want to know so far, Laurie, is just a little bit about your background, because I know you've gone through such a journey to be able to get here. And I think this brings up my first major question, because when we hopped onto the stream before the show, you brought up something very, very, I'll I don't know if apocalyptic is the right word, but this leads me to the question, how did you predict the future?
Yeah. For those of you that don't know, I wrote the Path of the Pale Rider story back in 2018, prior to the pandemic, prior to anything we're going through right now. And it's still, as we release it, is very relevant to the things that we're going through as a nation. And it's scary. So to go all the way back, when I was a martial artist, I was choreographing fight scenes for a production company in Detroit called Coattail Collective. And I wrote a short film called Catfishing, which was meant to be kind of our calling card as a fight choreographer team, showing off some of the things that we could do. And so it was mostly I did a wall run in a stairwell. We did gun disarms, flexible weapon. We had an extended knife fight. We were running up walls and running people over with cars, and it was good fun. But the producer of the production company was like, "What are you trying to say with this?" And I was like, "Nothing." I was like, "I'm trying to show off my badass martial arts skills." And he was like, "You should have some kind of a message when you write." And I was like, "I never thought about that. Yeah, I guess I should say something." He was like, "Have you ever thought about writing other things?" He's like, "Because maybe you could write for us." And so that's when I got bit with the writing bug. I wrote some short form web content. The one that we were working on was called The Agency, which again was like heavy martial arts, spy versus spy, blah blah blah. So I wrote probably 12 episodes of that. We were filming the pilot when my family relocated from Michigan to Texas.
Okay.
So it all stopped.
Oh no.
Yeah. Because I didn't have money to commute back and forth to continue filming The Agency with them. But I already got bit with this bug, and I had already started writing Path of the Pale Rider under a different name. It was called Dead West back in 2018. So we moved in 2019.
Dead West was the OG name.
Dead West. And we pay homage to that with one of our covers for issue number 2. There's a half-dead Jude St. Clair. You get to see his hands, and he has Dead West tattooed on his fingers. So that's kind of the throwback to what but we were just talking about how important it is to search things on the internet, right? And having you be the first one to pop up. And Dead West was like 2 different novels and then a band. It was like, probably should pick a different name. But
I know.
Path of the Pale Rider is actually more fitting to our story because Pale Rider again is the 4th horseman of the apocalypse, death. We kind of talked about East of West.
Interesting.
Right?
Okay. Path of the Pale Rider, the 4th horseman of the apocalypse.
Yeah. So
I love that. I love that.
Revelations is like he who rides in on the pale horse. His name is Death, and hell follows behind him. And so in my story, Death is broken. Death is missing. There is no death. So the whole point of the story is what happened to the Pale Rider. He's missing. So is he a he or she? Is it a thing? Is it who knows? There's so many conspiracy theories about what happened to Death. And so we have the Western tie-in, and we have like the zombie apocalypse tie-in, because again, there's undead, but it's not flesh-eating undead. They're people, and they're rotting. So they're more like people with dementia because as their brain rots.
Interesting. So they're not the classic zombie want to eat your brains. They're more that so are they starting out as people who are alive and then they just start rotting while they're alive, or are they dead?
No, they die. There's an event that makes them die. So it could be but it could be it's not passed on like a zombie bite, like a virus. It is you die of whatever causes your death. So if it's cancer, if it's car accident, did you drown? Did you get run over by a car? It's still the same method, but depending on how you die, you just never leave. There is no death. There isn't. Your body dies, but your soul doesn't leave it. How about that?
Oh, that totally makes sense. What happened to Death? People are dying. Wow, I love that. I absolutely love that.
It's a different take. on zombieism that I don't think has been seen before. So there's that. Yeah, like smelly neighbors, Lou, that stinks. It's like, but as you know, your brain is rotting in your skull, you lose your humanity. You can get forgetful or violent or detached or vegetative or and it can change and it hits everybody differently. But it's not just people, Jared. It's death is missing. So it's animals, insects, fish.
I love so is that, and I mean without being able to reveal anything, is that one of the core story problems that the characters are trying to solve throughout it, of like what happened to death?
Exactly. That's exactly what the story is.
Awesome.
That's one of my frustrations in the zombie genre. And I've read the book, as you can see, I've read the books and I've watched the movies, but it's usually about how they survive and they're interacting with other human survivors. And
it seems like it's generally more about the virus itself and how people are responding to the virus on average for zombie things, right? Are you dealing with a zombie who's going to bite your brain, eat your face off, or
eat you? Or how are you dealing with the people who are trying to steal your stuff?
Well, I'd much rather deal with the slow-moving zombies than the 28 Days Later zombies. Those are like the only zombies I do not want to face off against.
Yeah. Yeah, where it's just like a drop of blood in your eye.
Oh my God. And they're just like bloodlust and rage. Like, oh, no, thank you. We're all screwed.
That was more like human rabies. It was like very fast moving and just in unstoppable rage. Yeah. Very, very crazy. But so in this world, Jude St. Clair, our protagonist, is like, he's the last guy that's still looking for the answer of what happened and maybe has hope that he can put things back to the way that they were if he can figure it out. But how do you figure that out? The stupid mosquito, I would go nuclear on the aspect alone. You can't kill the mosquitoes. You can't kill the mosquitoes. Am I missing the point?
Oh, does it apply to animals? Does it apply to all life? So all even like life. Animals, bugs, just nothing dies.
Correct.
Not just human. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, I love that.
So then it raises questions like, what do you eat? Because you can slaughter I eat meat. Okay. You can slaughter animals.
So your hamburger falls off the bun. Oh,
would you eat a hamburger if it was still moving? Right? And how do you stop bugs from eating the crops when pesticides don't work? We got a major food problem. Major, right?
Well, Laurie, I absolutely love this. Like I could 100% just start asking questions about the story all day because I'm so intrigued about the story itself. But for those of you who like don't know about it, make sure to stick around till the end because we're going to do a live reading of the first issue. So like I haven't read it yet. I'm super excited about it.
By the way, this has not happened yet. I did not predict this. So tying it back to the question, the future hopefully does not include hamburgers that still move. Because when we get there, we're really in trouble. So if that happens, I apologize because that could be bad. That could be bad. But yeah, I did write. If you read issue 3, there's a lot that resembles the pandemic because I take the readers back in time and they get to relive what it was like when death went missing and how everything kind of shook down and just the being unsure and being at home and watching the news all the time and bad thing after bad thing happening and then the government getting involved and then overstep and riots and disappearing people and it's terrifying. You know what I mean?
It really is.
And
so you said you started Path Pale Rider in what year?
2018. And I wrote, so when I wrote it, it was a full-length movie. So again, I was working for a production company. It was written as a movie script.
Okay.
And so I broke it up into 12 issues, right? Some plants, go back? Plants repel pests. That's true. Hopefully people are smart enough to use them. The problem is when they come in as a swarm of like, I don't know, 4 billion bugs. What do you do?
I know.
I don't have an answer for that.
So how did you predict the future then?
I don't bad luck. It was just part of the story and it was just okay. All right. So when I came up with my concept of death being broken, it was like, okay, well, how would we react to that? And I base it off of real life events, how humans act in the form of adversity and chaos and using the past as examples. And so unfortunately, as humans, are creatures of habit. And so when we came to this new crisis, we acted the same. So history repeats itself, I guess.
So you predicted an incoming apocalypse before the pandemic started, and then you also had another prediction with the U.S. I know we're this week we've had it's been an interesting week for U.S. politics for sure, and I think you had a prediction there as well, didn't you?
Yeah. So again, this was all written in 2018. I wrote the whole shebang all at once and just broke it up into issues. Nothing has been changed, right? And we've been working on issue number 5. We crowdfunded that over the summer, and it just released on election day on that morning. So on Tuesday, we dropped the PDF and the books went to print. So yeah, I don't know if you can stick it up on the screen. Here is okay. So every issue starts with a journal entry from our protagonist, Jude St. Clair. And so now we're into July. His journal entry started in March. But so he says, today we celebrate our independence, or what's left of it. Sometimes I can't tell if it's fireworks or firearms. There's a ton of unrest, and different parts of the country seem to be dealing with much worse than we are. I don't know how much longer we're going to be the United States. I don't know what to tell you, man. It's just how it falls.
That's so crazy. That's so crazy.
So, yeah, I pulled the Simpsons, Courtney.
Predicting it before it's time. Well, I think that's actually really, really cool. That makes me just want to read the story even more, because I'm like, okay, so what's going to happen next in the story? And is that predicting the next world event in the next couple of years?
Hope not. My sister who has read the full script, when things were going on in 2020, my phone rang and my sister called and I said, hey, how you doing? She's like, I have a question for you. I said, sure. She says, can you please stop writing?
Stop predicting the future, Calcaterra.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know what to tell you. It's like it's already on paper. You've read the whole thing. You know, it was like if it keeps continuing this way, we're in big trouble. But yeah, it's scary. It's scary sometimes. So
well, Laurie, I really want to congratulate you on, it sounds like you just launched this week or this past week. So first off, definitely huge congratulations.
We just dropped the PDF for issue 5 this week.
It was just the PDF. Yeah. Awesome. And then, so if anybody wants to check out the comic series at all, the links are down in the YouTube description below. And then once again, we'll be doing a live reading for it in just a little bit. But I think this is probably a good time to transition. Laurie, you have so much experience with crowdfunding. And I know that when I had first started my research and we had been talking about it, I don't think I had realized just how much money you funded cumulatively through all of these different crowdfunding campaigns. And I think when I'd calculated 30,000, I think that's actually a low end. It's probably higher than that. But that is so awesome. So I think it would bring so much value for us to be able to dive through the process of how you go about a crowdfunding campaign. So when I look into the crowdfunding campaign and we think about preparing for it, the preparation strategy, I know a lot of writers, a lot of creators out there, they might still be working on their books or their comic series or scripts or whatever. And they might be considering, should I do a crowdfunding campaign, right? To bring awareness, bring money, help me pay for the editors, the artists, all the things that go into it. The first question that always comes to mind is, why choose crowdfunding? Of all the ways out there, why crowdfunding?
Crowdfunding to me gave me the freedom to do what I wanted to do with my story. Okay. A lot of times, people are told, hey, take it to Image, pitch it to so-and-so, Alterna, and all these different publishers. But usually someone is going to have a say in how you do that when you're getting involved in their company, right? And so if you have an idea and you have an image of what you want to do, and you think you can do it the best, do it your damn self, right? And crowdfunding is that great way where we kind of take out the middleman, right? Because I can create my own story. I have my artist team, and I bring it directly to the reader the way that I intended it to be, So that, I think, is one of the best things about crowdfunding, is that I'm in the driver's seat and you're getting the product that I want. It's the story that I want you to read. It hasn't been altered or changed, to appease bureaucracy or red tape. You know what I mean?
That totally makes sense. It's interesting because I've talked with a number of creators, some who've tried the crowdfunding strategy and haven't been very successful, and then like yourself, who have been very successful. So I think I'm kind of curious to think about the preparation aspect of it first. Now I know you've been through, was it 5 or 6 crowdfunding campaigns?
I've done 6 successful. Yep.
6. So you've done 6, and
yes.
all 6 have been successful. Incredible. You reached your goal, you got the funding, and it sounds like you probably got more than you were asking for, which is awesome. So when you prepare for a crowdfunding campaign, what steps do you take to prepare for the launch?
Now, and this will differ depending on where you are in your journey, because if you are going to launch your very first campaign ever, you're going to spend a lot more time preparing that than when you're like Carissa Grant and you're 15, 20, ish Kickstarters in. There's a difference because you've built up that audience and you're continually moving. You should be continually advertising. But before you launch your very first campaign, you want to spend time building up buzz. And what I mean by that is telling people what you're going to do and getting them excited about it. Because you want that line, you want it to be Black Friday. You want the door to open and people to march through the door and to want the product that you have. Because on Kickstarter, most crowdfundings, you want a majority of your business to be done the very first day. You should at least be 30% of your sales to your goal on that very first day. And so how do you build buzz? You can post snippets of the book. If you're a novelist, you can post your progress. You can post reviews. So people that have read what you're working on, maybe it's not spoilers, but just be like their reaction to what you're working on. If you're a comic book creator, you can sneak peek art at different levels of development. I have variant artists involved as well. So I talk about them, and it's a whole lot of building buzz around what you're going to do. And then finally, you need to pick a date when you're going to pull the trigger and launch this sucker, right? And then you need to tell everybody what that day is and remind them
consistently what launch day. And I mean, I think it's kind of similar to like a book launch, right? We want everybody to show up for the book launch or the launch of a series. What is that's interesting. So it sounds like there's so many different things that you can offer before the before it even launches. Are all these things that are available on launch day, or are these things that are used in the campaign prior to get people to build awareness?
You mean like showing up
so it's
on
like
that
offering
day,
like
or
reviews? So like offering like some of your ideas, like offering reviews or offering like art or offering different aspects of it. Are people able to invest prior to the campaign launch date, or does do these things become available for them to invest in when the launch date happens?
And I think that, again, depends on where you are in your journey, because like on my website, I have a store. And so if you're waiting for me to launch my next campaign, but you want to get caught up on the story, you can go purchase stuff from my website. And then when the Kickstarter launches, you can go there. But the reviews you can have done beforehand, because usually that's in some way, in production where someone can review it. A lot of times you can do like early bird specials as well. So you can talk about that. Like, hey guys, for the first 24 hours or the first, however, you can do it for a week or whatever. You could be like, for me, I offer these collectible stickers. And so we only do so many of them. I think 25 is the cap. And then like you got the first 24 hours. And so these people that come in and they do these early bird specials have something exclusive, and you can do anything you want. I've seen people knock down the price of the comic book. So like the first 24 hours, you can get it at a 10% discount, stuff like that. So it kind of drives people in. on that first day, but you want to talk about those things. You don't want it to be a surprise when they get there. Oh, I get 10% off. No, you need to be talking about it. You got to toot your own horn is basically what it is. And you got to tell people all the cool things that you're bringing to this next campaign. You got to talk about all the cool things that are in the story. And then you got to tell them what day and what time they want to be there. We also should talk about podcasting. So before I launch, I have already planned out a podcasting tour.
Okay. So we really think about podcasting as like the marketing aspect.
The marketing aspect, but this is still
I have this campaign, I have these things, and I want to drive awareness to it. The podcast is like the social media, video, whatever you want to do to bring awareness for it.
Correct. But you still want to plan that before you launch. You don't want to show up on launch day and be like, I don't have podcasts planned for this week. You should have some before. And I always categorize my list of podcasters by who is pre-recorded and who is live, because I will try and schedule the pre-recorded podcasts the week before.
Oh, that's clever. So the pre-recorded episodes come out.
They come out when we're live. And I'm hitting 2 different audiences on that first week that we are live.
Oh, that's interesting. I like that. Okay, that's a really good strategy.
So that's something to think about. And you should plan to do as many podcasts as you can. And again, things will happen. Some will fall through. So for myself, since I am a podcaster and I have, an audience, if my podcast just falls through because something came up, I'll just randomly be like, who wants to go live with me? And Carissa and I, we'll just be like, let's go live. And we don't talk about anything. We just hang out. But, we might talk about our stories at some point and be like, oh, yeah. And by the way, we're live. So it's still driving people to the audience to, increase the algorithm because
and I'd completely agree with that. I think it's just being in front of people, reminding people that you exist.
I hear.
And then also reminding people I exist and I have this thing that I'm doing or this thing that I'm launching right now. And then you're just trying to capture the attention of the people who have that interest in that thing.
Right.
Completely agreed. It's by the way, Courtney had a great question here for any of our newbies in the audience who just aren't familiar with crowdfunding. How would you break down like what crowdfunding is, Laurie, to somebody who knows nothing about it?
Crowdfunding is an excellent way for creators to raise funds to help them create something for you. So, for example,
I just pulled up your crowdfunding page, by the way.
Right. Here's my 1 through 5 Kickstarter on, this one is on Kickstarter. There's different crowdfunding platforms, by the way. There's Kickstarter, there's Indiegogo, there's Fund Your Comic, there's BackerKit, there's Zoop. There's a ton of them out there now. But what this is you believing in me that I will produce a product. So you get a piece of that pie. And then usually you are the first people to receive a reward, a pledge in return for that money. So what we use this money for is to help pay artist costs, printing fees, shipping, merchandise. Like we do a lot of cool stuff that you can participate in just depending on how you want to participate. And so this again is cutting out that middleman. I don't have to go to a big publisher where I have to spend X amount of dollars or print X amount of books, and then I'm in the hole trying to sell those books. This is what we're looking
basically
for.
Raising the money to do all this stuff
the money
before
it prints, before it produces, and then it helps us produce this product, which then you get a piece of. So you can order books, you can order PDFs, you can order. I have T-shirts, I have hot sauce, I got all sorts of stuff on this thing.
And I know predominantly crowdfunding can be used for so many different industries. I think the earlier crowdfundings, which gained the most attention and success, were probably films and TV shows. And then there's been a lot of branching out to like the board game industry is a huge thing with tabletop board game. Obviously books, graphic novels, anything that has some type of art form that you can try to build a following around of people will try through a crowdfunding.
One of the coolest things that we got off of Kickstarter is called a Sisyphus table. And it's I know. Are you familiar with Sisyphus? It's the Greek.
Yeah. Which Greek myth is he?
He's the one where he's pushing the rock up the mountain
Oh,
forever.
yep. And he's stuck, so he's like pushed it to the top, and then it rolls back down, and he pushes it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot what story he appears in, because anytime somebody goes into the underworld, he's one of like the traditional characters that people always reference with the rock up the hill.
He is in one of the circles of hell in the Inferno. I can Google it. Where is Sisyphus from?
We have a love for Greek mythology on this channel. I know we talk about mythology all the time.
Where is Sisyphus from? His Greek mythology was the king of Euphria, which is known as Corinth. Blah, blah, blah. Sisyphus was a story told by the poet Homer in the Odyssey. I am correct. I'm corrected.
Yep. Okay, yeah. So it was the Odyssey. Yep.
Yeah, he's from the Odyssey. He's not from Paradiso or Inferno. But anyway, so this table is a sand table, and there's a marble in it, and there's a magnet underneath, and it continually rolls this marble, and it makes.
Oh, so Sisyphus was the one who gave fire. Was that Sisyphus was the one who gave fire to the people? Was that? I could have sworn that was the one who touched the sun.
Google says Sisyphus was a cunning and arrogant figure who was known for his trickery. He was punished by the gods for his actions, including cheating death twice, being forced to roll a boulder up a hill in the underworld for eternity. The boulder would always roll back down as soon as Sisyphus neared the top. So this table, that's Prometheus.
Yeah, Prometheus. Okay.
Yeah. So but it's gorgeous. And the guy that designed it was a dentist or an orthodontist, like something this is not his, it's clearly, his passion project, but he had this really awesome idea, and it was going to cost, X amount of dollars to produce this thing. So he put it on Facebook, on Kickstarter, and the people came out and they supported it.
Icarus.
And
Icarus was the sun.
Icarus is the one that flew too
Icarus.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's all sorts of stuff you can get off of crowdfunding platforms.
Yeah, I have seen movies. Cool.
Yeah, you can just go look around. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us on a Sunday.
Yeah, thank you all for hopping in and joining us. For some reason, StreamYard doesn't let me show the Facebook profiles anymore. I was like, that one's interesting. I'll have to look into that. But we see all of you here. Thank you for joining us. If you want to come be involved in the conversation, feel free to hop over to one of our YouTube channels. Laurie, what's your YouTube channel?
It's at Laurie Calcaterra 360.
And or mine is right now, one word, on YouTube if you want to come join the conversation. But as we're thinking about preparing for the launch, I think a big question that comes to mind, and I know especially for me, what types of resources do you need to be successful? Because clearly, like, there's a lot of planning that goes into it. But I'm thinking of someone who maybe they have like a 9-to-5 job, maybe they're a student, maybe they have a family. Do I need to have a lot of money to invest? Do I need to have a lot of time? What types of resources do you recommend for like first-time crowdfunders?
It's probably more time.
Okay.
Because again, you can, like, our first Kickstarter, I think I had produced a few pages of art. I think we did 8, which is a lot, because I wanted to show people what it looked like. So I came out of pocket for 8 pages of issue number 1 so people could see, what we were trying to do. But after that, it became time. It was time to be committed to going live, to working around podcaster schedules, and to try and make appearances if I could. So, in the beginning, I didn't know any comic book stores or bookstores, but now I do. So in addition to podcasting and social media, now I try and plan on going to Comic-Cons and bookstores and comic book stores because, thank you. Yes. Prima, she's wonderful. I met her on John's Long Box. So again, it just depends on, go on all the things, do all the things, because you're going to find your audience out there. And that's the most wonderful thing about being an indie creator, is that people don't know I exist. And then when I do, they want to come along.
And that's the truth, right? Yeah. And this is the same thing for authors, for artists, right? Once you have the content, once you have the story, it's just a matter of going out there and finding your niche, finding your community. They're out there somewhere, but the only way you get out there is you have to do
it.
more.
You have to do it. So it's making yourself get out there. You have to talk about the stuff, but it's time as well, how long you've been doing it, and consistently turning out a good product. Because again, I could have done issue 1 and disappeared with all the money. Because that happens sometimes on Kickstarter. You back something and you never get
really?
it. Yeah.
Really?
That's
actually a thing?
unfortunately the risk. It is, but that's why you look at the history of the people. How many things have they backed?
Interesting.
How long
Because
have
it's
they
about
been
building
around?
trust with somebody. And
It
I think that's
is.
the same thing that goes into like being an author, right? If you come out with one book, the question people have when they get to the end of it is, when is the next book coming out, right? So people are more likely to trust authors when they've had multiple books out, because you've proven, oh, I can write multiple books at a consistent basis.
And at what pace? Because I've had bookstores look at me and they're like, give me your, your webpage. And then they go look at my history and they're like, okay, you're consistently turning out a book every 6 months.
Okay.
It's like, we'd like to see it quicker, but we understand because you're independent, the time it takes, you know what I mean? But you're consistent. So that's part of it. And so that's, so the time works with you. So the longer you are consistent, the longer that you are turning out a good product, that's, you build your following and you build your audience, and then you got to have a good product. Again, Path of the Pale Rider hasn't been done before. We're something different, and we have a ton of fun while we do it. So that's the enjoyable part of it, is that it's an experience as you go through it. So you got to think outside the box. You have to be creative.
Yeah, you have to be really, it sounds like you have to be very creative with what types of things you're offering on the crowdfunding campaign to draw awareness.
That is one of the issues with crowdfunding, is that since it's a great way for creators to put themselves out there and to do something original, everybody is there. So how do you differentiate
there's a lot of
yourself?
people trying to start crowdfunding campaigns unsuccessfully, right?
Well, not necessarily. There's a ton of people that are successful, but how do you differentiate yourself from the other things in your genre? Like, because again, people think we're Western and that we're zombie and we're a little bit of both, but we're not. You know what I mean? So what is it about Path of the Pale Rider that's different, than everything, and if you're in superhero or you're in action or you're a spy drama, what is it about your product that puts you out in the spotlight from everybody else? So that's, you gotta be creative with that. You gotta think
I
about
absolutely love that. And I think that actually leads into my next question very well. With your first, so like you said, you've done this 6 times now, but you had success with your first campaign. You had a lot of success with it. And for some creators, that's not always the case. For others, it is. What was your original crowdfunding strategy before you went for the first time?
I did something that I think was essential to my success, is I hired a publicist for the first time. And
interesting. Okay. And for anybody who doesn't know, what does a publicist do exactly?
So publicist for indie comics. What he did was that he booked myself onto podcasts, because again, I didn't know what podcasts exist.
Okay.
So he knew all the podcasts. So he booked me on the podcast. He made social media posts on my behalf. So he went onto Facebook, Instagram, it was Twitter at that time. And he would post every day for me. And then he also did a press kit, and he released it to like magazines and other like formal print productions. And so, but he was there with me through all of it, and I got to ask him all the questions. And he was essential, I think, in introducing me to a lot of the podcasters in the community. And if it wasn't for that, I probably would still not be where I am, because
so you think that publicist strategy helped really drive awareness in so many different facets. It sounds like you went the print, the news. You said what? The publication, newspaper
magazines,
strategy.
and even if they were digital,
media, podcasts.
Yes.
Did you do live events as well at that time?
Not at that time, because I didn't have any books. You know what I mean? Like that was before the first
one.
Live
event, you gotta have a physical book to show. I get that.
Usually they're like, "Can I buy your book?" And I'm like, "Ha, funny story. Don't have anything." Yeah. Right.
Awesome. So the publicist, that's actually really incredible. Did you have a lot of that knowledge before the publicist came on, or did you learn a lot of it from?
I learned most of my knowledge having walking the path. You go through it the first time, and then
Walking
it
the
was
path
like,
of the pale rider.
that's see what I'm doing there. But once you do it yourself, and then you kind of get an idea of what you need to do. So I did not rehire my publicist after that first campaign because I had the resource, I had the time to do it all myself. But again, if you're working a 9 to 5, Jared, and you need someone to reach out to all those podcasts for you, get a publicist, man. They will do all of that.
Absolutely. And I think that's the time factor of it, right?
It is.
When we want to do something, we have two options, right? We can either take the time to learn how to do the skill, which publicists, social media, podcasting, all that is a skill, or we invest the money to pay somebody to do it for us.
Yes.
Are you going to give up the resource, the money, or the time? It's figuring out which one makes sense.
Yeah, but they're both resources that you have to invest, right? It just depends on which one you want to invest. So, yeah, but since I am self-employed, so I work out of my home, and that was just something that was an option for me. So I was like, okay, well, I can do this. But I highly recommend Jeff Haas, who was my publicist for the first campaign I did, to anybody. So if you're just starting out and you want someone to kind of guide you through it, Jeff Haas, he's wonderful.
Well, I'm curious, was that always the understanding from the very beginning of, okay, I'm going to hire you for this one campaign to help teach me how to do the things?
Not necessarily. I hired him because I wanted to ensure success, and I wanted to make sure, because obviously with your first Kickstarter, you really have no idea until you go through it, right? You really don't. And so, and when I look back at being unknown and where I put my goal for my first Kickstarter was really high. So, usually I recommend people do Kickstarter goal for like a 500 to 1,000, because again, you're unknown. It's better to get a win and then move forward.
Yeah, and then just like pulling up from your website, I can see here you have this list on your website under the issue 1, the first one. Your the goal was what,
4,550. And that's high for a first campaign. And so looking back at that, I probably would have lowered that significantly. But I did podcast. I think we funded on day 28 out of 30.
So out of a 30-day duration, and then you end up pulling well over $5,000 for your goal. That's incredible. And then you had a Funko Pop. So what was that one of the things you like offered as part of like, okay, become a backer and you'll get this cool, unique Funko Pop?
Oh no, you got to pay for that one.
Oh, so that was like
Funko Pops are not free. Let me make sure everybody knows. Those are expensive because they're custom made, because it's not just a cowboy hat on a Funko Pop. They literally put on like all of the gear. They put on like everything that is designed on these characters is put on these Funko Pops. They're amazing. So I work with an actual custom Funko Pop studio out on the East Coast, and they make these for me. But I figured it was just a way to track them, because that's a weird thing that I didn't think would take off, because they're kind of pricey. But people are like, "What's the next Funko, Laurie?" And I'm like, "Okay."
I think like you shared earlier, I think when you fall in love with a franchise or a series, and this is the fan ideology, the fan mindset, when you like something, you want more of it. There's a reason that things like Funko Pops work. There's a reason that artwork is so popular, that merchandising is a thing, because we want to share our love for the things that we're passionate about.
Yeah, merch is an interesting topic. It really is.
Yeah, and I know, like, once again, like, merchandising is a whole nother category that I have so many questions for. So I'm thinking what we'll do, let's see, give me just a second, Laurie. We'll go to a quick subscribe break. If you are finding value from this stream, make sure to follow and subscribe. We're here every day with the Right Now community, 310 days and counting, to help you with the process, lifestyle, and mindset that it takes to become an author, creator, and all that jazz. So tap those buttons and you'll be alerted when we go live. All right. So for those of you who are here, thank you for joining us in the live stream. We're actually going to be next hopping into the meat of our conversation. What are the logistics that Laurie's taken us through as how Laurie has made $30,000 through crowdfunding Path the Pale Rider, the comic series? We're going to dive into the campaign itself. We'll also deep dive into that merchandising, because merchandising is a whole nother thing. And if you are a creator or an author or an artist, merchandising on social media has blown up these past couple years. It's here in the US market and it's only going to keep increasing. Would you rather go to Walmart and buy some random thing, or would you rather go on to TikTok, YouTube, and buy a thing from an artist or a creator that you care about? So it's definitely increasing. We're going to be diving into both of those. And then after, we'll be doing a live reading of Laurie's first issue of the Path of the Pale Rider. I know, I'm so excited. I haven't read it yet. I really want to see. I'm so intrigued by this death concept. And then we'll do a Q&A. So if you have questions for Laurie, drop your questions down in the comments and we'll queue them up for our Q&A. All right, Laurie, and let me bring you back up. Awesome.
I like that. Cue that up for the Q&A.
Fine. the Q&A. That was intentional. The number of times, Laurie, where I'm just like in the stream of conscious, like, like I said, I'm a daily live streamer. I say so many different things, and then the community's like, Kauffman, you've said that before. Or they'll like quote me, and I'm like, yeah, I did say that. But I'm like in such like a stream of conscious where it's like, sometimes it's just like top of my head. I'm like, I'm sure I say stupid shit. I'm sure I say great. It just depends on the day.
Well, that one was good. I liked it.
Awesome. So as we look into the crowdfunding campaign itself, so let's walk through the crowdfunding campaign has launched. And I know you touched on the marketing aspect. I know the marketing is a whole other side of it.
Yeah.
And I know you've shared a lot of tips for preparing. Now, it sounds like it's figuring out what different types of resources and things you're going to offer to incentivize people to invest and be a backer for the campaign. And then also doing the marketing side, podcasts, live events, so on and so forth. Once the crowdfunding campaign is launched, so once you are on day one of however many days, what are some tips to guide that campaign successfully during the launch?
I suggest people do a launch party when they launch.
Ooh. So like similar to like a book launch event. Is that the same ideology?
Yeah. And go online. I'm part of the Madness Comic Network. And so we have a StreamYard and we broadcast to 8 different locations. So when I launch a book, I'm talking to all 8 of those locations, but just to be live, to talk and answer questions and be yourself and be human. And, while you launch, a lot of times with a launch party, we'll start maybe like 30 minutes prior to the launch time. So I'm telling people for weeks, we're launching on Friday, February, whatever at 7 p.m. Right. And so we'll go live at 6:30 and be like, oh, I'm so excited. And then like bring in your team. So there's myself, there's my artists. I have 2 of them. I'll try to get them to come on. I have my editor. She'll come on from time to time, and like friends and other podcasters, and it just people. Surround yourself with positive people. So when you launch, you have all of that forward momentum. You don't want to launch in the middle of the night by yourself. That's depressing.
don't launch it by yourself. Tell nobody. Just get to launch day and like launch. All right, world, come to me.
People do that. People do it. People, we call it a ninja launch. They do it in the middle of the night. Really? And they don't tell anybody. And then it's like, why don't you? They're like, I don't have any backers. So it's like, well, you didn't tell anybody that you're live. You gotta tell people.
That's so crazy. That's so crazy that people do that, thinking that will work. It's almost that mindset of like, okay, I'm going to put it out there, and the algorithm's going to do all the work for me. And that's just not the case. It's almost like going for like the 1% strategy of like, okay, I'm going to create a video, and instead of going through the strategy, all the steps to do the marketing for it, I'm going to hope it goes viral.
And that's the thing. People maybe don't do enough research, or they just don't ask enough questions. But a lot of times, you see all these successful Kickstarters and think that Kickstarter is going to do it for me. And that is
Mm-hmm.
not the case. Those successful campaigns that you're watching have someone pushing and driving those sales. They have the time, they have the audience that they've cultivated. It's hard work. There is no secret. It's hard freaking work.
Completely agreed with that. So, and I think that kind of leads me into the next question very, very well, Laurie, because I know you've mentioned the marketing side of it. Clearly, you hired a publicist for your very first campaign. And I imagine it's probably evolved now by campaign number 6. But what would you say for anyone who's just starting out, who's going to be like trying out their first crowdfunding campaign? Do you have any like marketing advice or like ways to share with a community? Let's say maybe you're not very well networked on social media.
Okay. One, join some groups.
Okay.
Right? Groups that are in the genre that you're in. So there's a ton of indie comic book groups that I'm in, but I'm also in zombie groups. I'm in Western groups. I'm in apocalypse groups, right? So start building your footprint. And again, it doesn't have to be just novels and writers. Branch out, because people that are looking for something new in zombies, right? Oh my gosh, I've never heard about this before. What are we doing? Death is broken. I have 1,000 questions. Come on in, let me answer them for you, right? And so there's opportunities there. So you want to make sure that you're hitting a lot of different avenues with your marketing. So not only is there social media, and people are like, well, I don't want to post too much. Is posting every day a no-no? Posting every day.
I don't think that in our current market, I don't think posting too little is a thing anymore. I was like, I don't think anyone could post too
you
little.
You can post too much if you're posting multiple times a day to groups, and if you're using a link, Facebook can actually put you in jail for 30 days. So don't post too much. Like once a day is what you should anticipate, but don't feel bad for that, because again, the person that's most passionate about your project is you. The person that will speak most eloquently about your project is you. So you should be the one that's posting every day on every platform if you can. So it should be Facebook, X, Twitter, X and Twitter, Threads, Instagram. If you're in Discord, I don't know, anything that you can find, you should be posting, and change up your posts. So maybe not the link every day, but for me, I have grim questions. So would you eat a hamburger if it still moved? Or, what do you do with the undead children? Right? And it starts making you think about this world like, oh, it's more in depth. I have a pinup zombie girl, and it's like smash or nah.
And
right?
what's actually really interesting, Laurie, what I'm hearing you saying is you're not, you do this stuff and you're not trying to sell to the audience per se of saying, buy my thing, buy my thing, buy my thing. You're exploring the world, you're exploring the story and answering questions to allow people to become fans.
Just to have them, tell me more, right? And then tell me more turns into it's all on the Kickstarter page. Go check it out. So you want to hit the social media platforms, you want to plan on the podcasting, right? And then there's a physical appearances, so bookstores, comic book stores, right? So we have all of that. You just want to engage your audience as best as possible. And then you want to talk about your progress, right? And so be like, we're 50% funded. Oh my gosh, we're 90%. We just unlocked a stretch goal. Are people familiar with stretch goals? Do you know what I'm talking
about? I think I do, but why don't you just real quick share what is a stretch goal for anyone who doesn't know?
A stretch goal is somewhere on the campaign where you've exceeded your goal, or you set a goal outside of your regular goal, right? So my dollar goal is 4,550, and I do 2 kinds of stretch goals. I'll do a backer count goal. So every 50 backers, I release poker cards. We're building a poker deck together.
Oh, that's kind of cool, actually. That's creative.
And it's not only great because we're building it together, but you continually come back to the campaign, and we're working towards making a bigger item. So it's not just something that you get that one time, but you got to come back every time in order to continue your poker deck, right? And then I do dollar amount goals. So as stretch goals are like, once we hit 4,550, our first stretch goal is 5,000. And I have like, everybody gets PDFs to other comic books for free. And then I do merchandise. And then I do the slice and dice where I smash fruit and vegetables with a machete or a sledgehammer. You get to vote, and I dress up as Pikachu and light the crap on fire. And this is what I do on my live stream, right?
So and it's essentially like a live stream, like a live event that lets people be involved from a community aspect.
Yep. And so you can do stretch goals any which way you want, but to talk about them and to get people invested, and you know what I mean, that's really how you have to make this move, you know?
And I think one of the biggest things I can hear from you, Laurie, is your passion. You have such a passion for Path of the Pale Rider that you've been able to do this consistently. And I think sometimes that can be hard for a lot of people if maybe they're passionate about their story, but they're not passionate about the marketing aspect of it. I get that.
Then you find someone who can, because again, I can't draw. I pay someone to do that because I will never do it justice, right? And so if you are great at writing, but you suck at marketing, get a publicist. Find someone that can fill in where you're weakest.
I absolutely love that. And I know one of the things that you touched on, and I know we could spend a whole couple of hours on this other topic, which I'm sure I'll have to bring you back for another merchandising conversation. But for anyone who's not familiar with merchandising, how do you do merchandising? Like, what's your specific strategy?
Well, I have a few key things that I know my people like, which are t-shirts and hats and keychains. And then I will poll my audience. So I'll send out a survey before I run the next campaign. And I'll just say, here's some of the things that I'm thinking about for merch. Tell me what you think, you know, and they can either vote on stuff or they can write in things. And so I listen a lot to my audience about what they want. And that's how we ended up with hot sauce.
You have hot sauce?
Yeah.
So like hot sauce for a comic series. That's interesting. And clearly it does well. Was it because you pulled the audience and they're like, hey, that's what we want?
It was a very emphatic, shut up and take my money is what it was.
And this just goes to show, right? This is a comic series and they want hot sauce. Like
they do.
That's so cool. That is so cool.
It was so bizarre. It was a friend of mine who does comics and tabletop games. His name is Christopher Brown. He is an outdoorsman. He's part of this other group called Big Sexy Outdoors, and they hunt and he cooks and he makes his own hot sauce. And so he made this barbecue ghost pepper, and he asked, just as a joke, he's like, hey, can I put your undead bear on the label? Because I think it would be funny. So that big undead bear that you have behind you, Big James, is on the label of this hot sauce. And I was like, sure. I'm like, my request is that I get a bottle and one for my dad. You know what I mean?
Aww.
And so I go on the internet like, I got hot sauce with Big James on it. And people were like, shut up and take my money. How do I get one of these? And I was just like, I didn't anticipate that.
Interesting.
Let me figure that out. And so I talked to Chris and I was just like, do you want to make hot sauce for me? Should I make hot sauce? Like, how does it? And he was just like, here's my recipe. Here's where I get the bottles. He's like, I know you can cook. This is yours now. And so I started making hot sauce.
And is that that's something that you yourself make? Do you make and do you do the distribution for it as well?
Yeah, I do. We do. Okay. Yeah, I print the labels. I fill the jars. I do it all myself. And since releasing his recipe, which is that Path of the Pale sauce, I have 2 more of my own. So there's 3. And now I actually have there's Path of the, well, you got to listen to these. They're funny. There's Meet Your Maker, mango habanero. We have Heart Stop and jalapeno and serrano. Okay. And then I have this very small batch called Jack's Revenge. So my last slice and dice, the people voted I murder a jackfruit with what did we murder him with? It was a 2-handed axe. And I made hot sauce from this murdered jackfruit. So that's what you're getting in the Jack's Revenge. It is Jack the Ripper that I murdered with.
I love that. You're essentially you're tying in story elements into the merchandise itself.
Right, but
I
it was
really,
from the
really like
slice
that.
and dice. Like that's the one that you watched me kill. It was the one that you're eating in the hot sauce.
And I think that's clever. I just have to say that's such a huge call out of A, being clever with the live event, and then B, listening to your audience.
Yeah.
And then leveraging what you're listening to and then taking that in another creative direction to then give them more of what they want. But there's also like that surprise factor, which then is like, wow, I was involved in the live experience. Yep. I wanted hot sauce. Oh, there's this even cooler thing.
Right.
Now I'm in love.
You need a small batch of you can consume the flesh of the thing that you told me to kill. How about that? So that's how the hot sauce came to be. But it's like, it's gone from like, the first time I put it on campaign, I think people got 6 bottles. And then there was, on the next campaign, it was 10 bottles. I don't think I had it on one of the campaigns. I was like, well, I'll take it out. And now on this issue number 5, I have like 36 bottles of hot sauce going out to the backers. So it's incredible.
Wow. So the hot sauce is absolutely awesome, by the way. And I know that there's so many different ways that you can go about merchandising. What is, let me think through this. So what with your merchandising, and I don't know if this is the same for all the products that you do you create them yourself and then also distribute all of them yourself as well? And then like, how do you sell them, or what do you sell them through?
Okay, so typically I will introduce merchandise via the Kickstarter.
Okay, so it's all sold through the Kickstarter website.
Most of it I will premiere there, and then when I have stuff left over, it will go on the shop, or it will come with me in person. Gotcha. I will sell it in person when I go to like book signings and stuff.
And when you say the shop, is that through your website?
Through the website.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't have a physical store, but on the website and then in person. When I'm in person, sometimes I'll bring the merch tower and I'll set it
Absolutely.
up. But typically I'm like, you have to order hats in like a bulk, you know what I mean? Like, so I got 30 hats at a time, and like, let's say 5 of them sell on the Kickstarter, then the rest of them come with me and they go on the shop. And they're also available like on future Kickstarters, just depending on how long I have them. If I can make the stuff myself, I'm pretty handy, I will, because it will save money. However, you know, when you accomplish sauce, that's corny. I really like that. I love it. I'm going to use that. And I'm going to use that in the actual tier when I build my next Kickstarter, the accomplice sauce. You helped murder this jackfruit.
I love that.
But if you can do so, because I have a Cricut and I have like a t-shirt press, so I've taken on doing my own t-shirts. I get the t-shirts in bulk, so now I can like drop down the price on some of these things as opposed to, you know, outsourcing. But I mean, like, I can't print stickers, I can't print certain things, so you have to order them. But typically, I fulfill all of my Kickstarters myself. Everything that's going out from my shop, I'm fulfilling myself. I don't think I have any third-party shipping right now, but as I get bigger, I probably will have to.
So essentially you get the design, you get it designed, generate elsewhere if you can't do it. You purchase in bulk. It comes delivered to your house. Yep. You have a inventory, and then from that inventory that you've technically already spent the money on, you've already invested in it, then you sell through that inventory through the crowdfunding, the marketing, and so on and so forth.
Now, some things I don't order until I know how many are needed, like those Funko Pops, because they're so expensive to produce. They cost me over $100 to produce.
No way. And for how many?
For one. They cost $100
It costs $100 to produce one Funko Pop. That's crazy.
Yeah. That's why I'm like, those I don't order until I know how many people actually want. And again, Jared, when I put that on the first Kickstarter, I was like, no one's going to buy this. This is too expensive.
People, did they go crazy for it?
There's a core group of people that follow these, the new ones. So I have 2 Funko Pops available on every campaign, but it's weird. So they're exclusive because they're expensive. And so I have the new one that I'm premiering. You don't know what it looks like, right? That one is the most expensive tier. And then underneath that is the Funko Pop that we released the previous. You can get 5. So it flips over for the next campaign. So we released, I think it's Francis St. Clair is the one I'm going to be sending out. So there's only 2 made right now. One is mine and one is for one backer, and everybody else got the one from the previous campaign, and then it goes on. See what I mean? So it just depends. But those, again, I don't order in advance because I don't want to be stuck sitting on $100 piece of inventory when I could spend that $100 on a variant artist to do a cover for the next book. So it just depends on merchandising what you want. So that's why it's important to listen to your audience about what they want, because if they don't want those Funko Pops, we're not ordering those Funko Pops. We're going to spend it on what they want. There's only so much money to go around in the Kickstarter.
That totally makes sense. And then I know Courtney brought up a good point. She said you can print and cut stickers with a cry cut. And I think that goes to an even bigger conversation of, and I see this for creators a lot, is how can I create something and cut costs down on it as much as possible, right?
Now, because Courtney, I have a Cricut and I've done some.
Oh, Cricut.
Cricut. It's but I have I've had trouble with where it's like, I forget what they do it, where they have like the offset cutting. It just never does it right for me. And they never look as professional as when I order them. So unless I take a class or I spend amount of time. And again, it comes down to what resource are you spending time? Am I spending a lot of time to problem shoot the stickers, or am I ordering the stickers and spending my time writing or building my next Kickstarter or fulfilling? So stickers, I found in my opinion, just, I get them for super cheap anyway. You can get them for 83 cents each.
And then I know, Laurie, that you shared for the Funko Pops. I didn't even know that you could create custom Funko Pops. I didn't even know that was a thing, but clearly that's probably really popular in a fan industry. How do you get a Funko Pop made? I was like,
there's a couple ways. I get it made. You can go through Funko, and I think it's less expensive. However, it's like a drop-down box. You know what I mean? Where you start with your basic, and then you can tell like add a beard, add a mustache, add a cowboy hat. But
probably like adds money on it. Yeah.
Yeah. But when I'm like, hey, I needed to have a bullet hole through its head in this direction. Or I'm like, I want to do a giant undead bear with wounds on it in these locations. Funko ain't doing that. Right. So I started on Etsy, and I was looking at shops that do custom Funko Pops. That's a great place to start. But do some research. The first one that I actually communicated with kept trying to raise the price because they were like, oh, it's $100 to start. And then you had to add on a design fee. And then we add on another fee when you do the box. And then we add on another fee when we do this. And then there's shipping and tax off of that. And I was like, this is 3 times the amount that you quoted me in the beginning. So the studio I use is the same studio that I started with, and they're wonderful. They gave me one price. I send them the character bio sketches from the artist, so they know exactly what to put on these people and where their wounds are, and because we have imaginary tech. So people wear these heart monitors that show if you have a heartbeat or not. Yeah, we call it a disc. And you'll see it in issue number 1, Jared, but they tap it to activate it, and it shows a heartbeat. It has an audio sound to it. And then if they're undead, it changes color, it flatlines, and it alarms. And so that's kind of
cool, actually. Okay.
And so my Funko Pops have these discs. They have to create them for them. And so it's like you have to find the right studio that is willing to do this. But this studio is great. They're like, you want us to do what? Funkos of undead bears and cowboys? Say less. You know what I mean? They're like, they spend most of their time creating Funko Pops for wedding cake toppers and deal with bridezillas. They're like, just shoot me. They're like, when's your next one coming? I'm excited. Who are we doing next? You know?
I like that. Awesome. Well, I think once again, I could probably ask 100 questions about merchandising, but clearly it's been very, very successful for you. I think now's probably a really good time to transition into the live reading of the first issue of Path the Pale Rider. Now, I'm going to get it queued up on my end. And while I'm setting up, Laurie, one of my questions for you, and I'm sure you probably dealt with many, many obstacles, but what would you say was one of your biggest obstacles from the crowdfunding campaign?
Oh, Jeez.
Like, which one?
There's a few, you know what I mean? Obviously, imposter syndrome is big. Also okay, this is something that I think people need to understand when you run a Kickstarter campaign is you're gonna feel like everything is personal. So when people
Interesting.
cancel, sometimes they have to cancel,
Oh, does that
right?
happen where people will invest money? But so when somebody invests money, they can pull it back?
So on a Kickstarter campaign,
Mhm,
specifically that platform,
mhm,
you are saying, I need to raise this amount of money in this amount of days. And
mhm.
so people can donate money, cancel, increase, decrease, whatever they want to do for that
Okay.
whole time. And then when it closes, whatever you're end up with, that's when they pull the money from people. So it
Oh,
doesn't actually hit
interesting,
people's credit cards until the
interesting.
very end, right?
And is that till the end, till when the launch starts or till the last day of the launch?
So
Or
the
the
last day
last
of the
day of, like the
campaign.
last day of the
Yeah,
campaign?
the
Okay,
last day of the
gotcha.
campaign. So if I
Mhm,
start on the 1st and it ends on the 30th at 7 p.m.,
mhm.
once it's over, that's when it pulls all the money from the people. So if you
Interesting, okay,
pledged on day 1, it still won't hit your credit card until that very last day. But we as
interesting.
creators, we're very passionate and we pour our heart
Mhm,
and souls into this. And so
mhm,
we always want to caution people that when you pledge, make sure that you understand what you're communicating to us, that you are part of us and you're along for the journey. It's not something that we take casually, but
mhm.
on the flip side of that, as a creator, someone could be casual and they could be like, "Hey, this is super cool." And then at the 29th day, it's like, "Ooh, I'm not gonna have enough money to pay rent. Cancel."
Yeah. Oh,
And we as creators are like, "What the hell?" You know what I mean? But that
yeah.
you can't take it personal. 9
Mhm,
times out of 10, there's some financial reason that someone is
mhm,
canceling that pledge. It has nothing to do with you. So it's hard not to be that emotionally invested. So I wanna
mhm.
recommend that you don't get invested and don't get insulted.
Don't get emotionally
Right.
invested in the individual monetary contributions until it closes.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it goes up, it goes down, it goes up again, and it's
Mm.
just like the stock
Is
market.
that
It's
pretty
gonna
normal? You'll
happen.
see kinda like a roller
Mhm.
coaster?
And so once you get
Okay.
through it and you understand what's normal for a
Mhm,
Kickstarter, you can anticipate that. It doesn't mean that you're gonna feel less emotional about it because let's be honest, we do. When we get to that, what we call the plateau. So like your first day is like you skyrocket, you feel great. You're on top of the world. Day 2, all right, things are rolling in. Day 3, it starts to calm down. Day 4, 5, 6, 7, where is everybody? What's your what's your plan for that, right? So
interesting,
that's
okay.
the obstacle right there is like that plateau period, you have to have a plan for that. And I think even established creators are always trying to plan something new and change
Mhm,
up their how you deal with that obstacle of the plateau. Some people have shortened their campaign so there's less plateau. Other
mhm,
people will release new items during that time or push sales during that time or build something new. Other people will try to push their stretch goals during that time. It's
mhm.
hard. But that's an obstacle that I experience every campaign is that plateau and everybody else does too. And then the emotions. It's like,
Mhm. And I think it's probably trying to manage your emotions. I think
manage your
the
emotions.
emotional aspect is the same for any type of
Mhm.
creator, author, artist journey of being able to manage that with expectations. And I think
Don't
it
let
just
them.
comes down to reasonable expectations.
Yes, but don't let 'em
Mhm,
see you freak out. Don't freak out publicly. Find your friend, like Carissa
mhm.
and I
Have your
are talking
support
about
group.
Carissa,
Yep.
right? We vent
Mhm,
to each other,
mhm,
don't vent online, that's not what people like to see.
mhm,
Don't do that. But, find someone that can be your sounding board,
mhm.
someone that's maybe going through it the same way as you, and you guys can, vent to each other as you go through the trenches. It's an emotional roller coaster, it really is.
Laurie, thank you so much for
Yeah.
sharing that. I could totally resonate with that in like my own creator journey and know that it's a roller coaster and being able to having a good support group, network, friends, family, and then balancing that with like the online aspect of it is so powerful. Mental
Yeah.
health is such an important part of the journey, and we have to
Huge.
be able to balance our own mental health to be able to be successful in the long term.
Yeah, vent in
Mhm.
private, positive in public.
Chris is like, stop yelling at me, Laurie.
No, that's Pops Van Zandt. Shout out to the Meg, by the way.
Madness, yeah.
Shout out to the Madness Entertainment Group, which is like I said, we stream on 8 different locations. We're on Pilled and Rumble and Twitter, and we're on all the different things. So
Laurie is an invaluable member of the Madness Comic Network. Invaluable. I completely agree. We've only been chatting for just a little bit, and I already knew before this, Laurie, you are invaluable.
Thank you, Pops, and I hope you're doing all right. So
with that being said, let's dig into the comic.
Okay, I'm excited. Don't come for me. Well, I mean, again, I drink the tears of my readers. It starts in issue 1, so buckle up, Buttercup.
Laurie, can you show me the cup one more time? I just want to see what that cup is. Bring it closer to the camera. I just want to see the tears. Yes.
See, it'll glitch out.
Yep. There we go. Perfect. And this is Laurie's life motto over here. I love it. All right. So what we're going to do, we're going to hop into a live reading of the first issue of Path of the Pale Rider. And then make sure that if you have questions for Laurie, drop them down in the comments and we'll be queuing them up during our Q&A. We will Q&A them up
for the Q&A
after. All right. So I got this all set, the reading, and then here. Perfect. So, the artwork is so cool. I love the artwork. I just wanted to show the full page.
Yeah, it's cool. Marco DeFio is the artist on issues, the interior artist on 1 through 4, and this is his cover. But he wanted to say something about humanity being shattered. I think he really pulled that off. So you have, this glass, and you'll see the glass later on, but Jude and his horse, we have the undead and we have the heart monitor, and it's just like this murky red shattered humanity on the front of issue 1.
Awesome. And let's see. All right, I am all ready. I'll pull it in so you can get a good view, and we are all good. All right, let's do this. Let's see how this comic reading goes. Special thanks. That's
all the
actually
really people
nice.
That were backers on issue number 1.
You
could find your name in there somewhere.
I love that. I think I've seen a couple of these already popping in here. That's actually really cool.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm the narrator, right? So I'm reading this? Okay.
Yeah.
So March 5th, 2020, everything has changed. I woke up this morning and the world is fundamentally different. People who are very clearly dead are still walking and talking as if they are themselves. How is this possible? Their gray eyes are just as confused as mine. What happened? And so panel 1, we are 10 YA, that's our time telling system. It's 10 years into the apocalypse.
Awesome.
Like BC,
It's too quiet. Easy, girl.
That's a whisper in comic land. It's easy, girl.
Easy, girl.
You see something across the car. Clack! Out comes the gun.
Hit it.
Tap. Alive.
Kid, do you know the way to I-93?
It's west of here.
Thanks.
Horse noises. Fire crackling. It is night.
So beautiful.
Not for long. Snap.
Where are you? Nice doggies. Oh shit. You brought your friends. Come on. Where do you think you're going? Why kicking shits?
Jared, this is turning out to be everything I wanted.
Just a bit further, girl. Then we can rest. Hello, ma'am. I don't mean to startle you. I'm looking for Santa Claus.
Aren't you too old to believe in such things?
Not the legend, ma'am. The town.
And what takes you to this town?
I'm looking for Dwayne Fink. You familiar?
Sorry, I can't help you on either account. There was a town up on the bluff, but I'm not sure if it's still there.
Before I head out, can you help a traveler?
Sarah, do not get too close.
My name is Jude St. Clair.
Oh, I was supposed to say, hello, mister. Sorry, my bad. You're like, hello, mister.
My name is Jude St. Clair, miss.
Can I give your horsey a carrot? I'm sure he would prefer an apple, but all I have is carrots.
Prince is actually a girl. Her full name is Diana Prince. She is named after a warrior woman who protects the human race.
Ooh. Hello, Diana. We'll get you lots of carrots for the road. Here you are, traveler. Have a safe trip.
Ma'am?
Bye, Mr. Jude.
What do you think, girl?
Boom.
I know. We've come so far. But bear?
Hey.
Okay, we just have to be quiet. And I've got just the thing. I was saving these for a special occasion, but today is the day. Hope you enjoy your new sneakers. Ah, happy early birthday, girl.
Snort.
What's this? Let go! Gasp! No! Now, let's see what we found. Vegas? What was I thinking? Oh, that was so stupid. All that risk for one glass. Ugh. I need more sleep. I have a bad feeling about this. Shit. Whisper, whisper, whisper.
Crunch.
Ha. Ha. Oh. No!
Crash. Of course, I don't need probably more wet than that, but I can't make it.
Let's go, Prince! Run, girl, run! Faster! We're not going to! No! No! Ouch. I'm too old for this shit. Prince, where are you, girl? Oh. This is all my fault. Gotta keep going. Pick up the pieces because the answer is out there. I'm gonna find it. No matter the cost. Goodbye, Prince. You had better be worth it, Dwayne. Oh, man.
Good job, Jared.
Wow. Wow. Wow, Laurie, that was very, very cool. I think those were some expert sound effects.
Like, I know people.
You're like bear noise, bear killing, the crow. I think the crows were very, very good.
Thank you.
Oh man, what I absolutely loved, I loved the style of the comic mixed with all the different sound effects. Now I know obviously reading a comic where generally we're making the sound effects in our mind, but I think that was very, very cool to see and go through. For anyone who's here in the live stream, what did you think about it? Did you guys appreciate it? Did you guys like the reading? Drop it down in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.
That's it's one of the challenges I think of all comics, but I find it in my world specifically, sound is so important. How quiet it is, how quiet they have to be, how do they communicate without alerting things like giant undead bears. It's also we have things that are super loud. So how do you communicate sound when you have a 2D medium? So that's one
yeah, and I think that's always the challenge with comics, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't, because I'm not as much of a comic book reader necessarily. I'm not as familiar with the styles as much, but I know that there's different ways to indicate like the volume of the sound with like whispering, loud, based on the speech bubble. Right. So that was definitely really cool. But I think what I like the most is like, first off, the artwork was really awesome. It has its own style that's very unique. And I think the plot, the mystery for the first one is intriguing, right? You built up a love first off for the horse, for Prince in the beginning of the issue. And the issue is essentially seeing the death of the character, which is really his sidekick, so to speak. As he's now dealing with the first instance of like zombie bear. Like
zombie. Yeah, and that's the thing is it's just you see Jude in this world and you're kind of questioning, are we in the past? Are we in the future? We're in this apocalypse. I see cars, but it's still they're dressed in Western apparel. They got heart monitors. So it's obviously a different place. And we see living people and we know he's on a quest, but it's like this issue is the decisions of Jude St. Clair, how this world is unforgiving, how small decisions like picking up a glass can have dire consequences that you didn't intend, and that anything and everything can be undead.
And I think it's so cool. I'm like so intrigued. I feel like the first issue gives you a hook and a taste of what this world could be about without really yet getting into the core of the problem. And I think you did a phenomenal job.
Thank you.
Clearly, however, I forgot to see how many backers you got from the first campaign, but clearly a lot of people believed in it because you've now built up this dedicated community. So I think that's really, really cool. It's proof of concept. I heard this saying from someone that people will show appreciation by joining a following and joining your community. People will prove trust with their wallet. So I think when people are willing to spend money and invest, I think that just shows a deeper commitment and level of trust. So very, very cool, Laurie. And I could tell from the community here, Pittymont, excellent job as always at Madness Comic Network. Already looking forward to the next issue. Share the stream, everyone. Back both these awesome people. Aw, thank you. Madness Comic was like, hey, yo, subscribing here. Thank you so much, my friend. Welcome to the community. Thank you for joining. George Wood was like, it was great. Laurie's podcast helped my son in his Kickstarter and encouraged him. Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah. Laurie, I'm inspired by your journey. I know I'm inspired. I like want to go start a Kickstarter like next month. I'm like, yeah, this is the way. Like,
start building it. You got to build it and you got to build hype. Got to build the hype.
I can't just start it tomorrow.
No.
No, but what about the ninja strategy? Right?
No, I'll just don't do the ninja strategy. No. People, lay out a plan, execute the plan. I know it's exciting, and the temptation is because Kickstarter will be like, your project is approved and you can launch it whenever you want to. Don't freaking just launch it.
Don't launch it, prepare. No, and I am fully on board with that. I know with my community, I'm always like, make plans for the strategy, the book launch, the whole process and everything. So I'm in complete agreement with you, Laurie. But I think now is our turn and our chance to throw it back to the audience. It is time for the Q&A. What questions do you have? Drop it in the comments. We would love to hear from you. But before we, I pull up the first question, Laurie, if people want to learn more about what you're doing, or if people want to go, let's say, purchase issues of the comic, where can they go? How can they find out more about you and future issues?
All right. Well, the best thing to do is to follow me on social media. I have a Facebook group specifically for Path of the Pale Rider. I have a Facebook page. It's mostly for advertising, so you might find that. But look, Facebook and then groups, Path of the Pale Rider. You only have to answer one question to get in, which is, do you like comic books? But if you don't answer, it automatically declines it. So please answer. Even if you say something crazy like, I love giraffes, I'll still let you in. I just know that you're not a bot. Okay.
I love giraffes. Okay. So Laurie, if I try to join, you're going to know I'm going to use that answer. I like
be
giraffes.
Like, I love giraffes, and be like, thank you for listening. Right. Exactly. But that group is intended to get like the first information. It does the polls. We've done things like picked out apocalypse outfits. We've made apocalypse soundtracks. We've talked about the intricacies of how death works. And, people have started their own theories about what they think broke death in this group. So that's really the main place to interact. But I'm also on X. I'm at Path Pale Rider. I'm on Instagram. I kind of abandoned the at Path of the Pale Rider. Just look up at Laurie Calcaterra. I'm there. I'm on Threads. I'm on all the socials. But please, if you are looking to purchase books, go to www.pathofthepalerider.com. I have a full working shop there. You can shop around. I have all issues available. I also have the trade paperback available. You can get this internationally as well. This is published through ASAP Imagination. And so, and they have, so ASAP Imagination, that's my website there. You can get everything there except for this spiffy trade paperback, which I'm thinking I should just put it on there because why not? But this one for international people, you can get international shipping from, it's called NE1, the letter N, the letter E, the number 1, world.com. And that's where you can get this one internationally. I only do domestic shipping from my eShop, but I do offer digital download from my shop as well. So if you just want to binge read and see what's going on with the story, you can always do that. But this is so nice. It has such a good feel, Jared. And I can't wait to, every 4 issues, I'm so making another one.
I like, Laurie, I don't generally even do comics, but I want to buy it because I'm so interested in the story now. I want to know what happens with death.
Well, I'm telling you, so since it's a full-length movie and it's 12 issues, so every 4 issues, we move into a different section of a movie. A movie is written in Act 1, Act 2, Act 3.
Absolutely. Okay, so the 12 issues is broken up into the 3 acts, essentially.
Right. So this is the first act, and we just
released
the PDF for issue 5, which brings you into what happens in the second act of a movie, Jared. Everything goes wrong.
The hero kills the bad guy and the movie ends.
What? That's not what happens in the second act. That's in the third act. In the second act is where they find out their purpose, right? They get a resurgent of purpose, and usually everything goes wrong.
Games. The hero gets to go enjoy the world. The world has been turned upside down.
The world is turned
upside down. They try to get closer, and they learn a new philosophy as they approach the midpoint, and things either get horrible, or maybe they get better.
Well, things start out pretty bad. Let's be honest, things are pretty bad. They get worse. Yeah.
Oh, so yeah. I could only imagine. Yeah. I'm super stoked. So I think that's really, really cool, Laurie. Thank you for sharing that. For those of you who want to go check out Laurie's website, the links for both Laurie, your socials, your link tree, which leads to your socials, and the Path to the Pale website is linked down in the YouTube description down below. I also just dropped it in all the comments. Whether you want to go check out more about Laurie, go find her on socials, or you're like, hey, I want to buy that. You'll be able to go do that. Go follow the links, and I highly, highly recommend. So very, very cool. Laurie, my question now, after like having read through that issue, how did when will the animated movie or a series come out?
Everybody asks that.
Really? So that's a really big question.
That's a question I get all the time, is when will we see it animated, or when is Netflix going to take this over?
And I wonder if that's almost like a standard for comics that do very, very well. Like, do a lot of them end up becoming series?
Yeah, actually, it's quite common, because what you're seeing on the comic book is basically what they would call a storyboard in the movie industry, right? So they storyboard out what they want the camera angles to look like. So they have it all visually before they start shooting. That's what comic books are. So there's a ton of things that start out as comic books that are now, I mean, we were just talking about Umbrella Academy. We have so many, like 300 and Tank Girl and Lock and Key and all the Marvel movies, you know what I mean? That originally started out as comic books, and now we get them in live action. Maybe someday. I'm not really willing to let go of creative control for like a Netflix route, because Netflix, when they buy the rights, they buy the rights. Like, you can do nothing.
Would Netflix be the right medium for it? Because I know there's obviously more studios that could go.
Maybe. I've heard maybe like Amazon Prime would be a good one. I would love to see it animated.
I think that would be so cool. I mean, or couldn't you also just hire your own team and then distribute yourself?
Maybe.
There is a strategy for that, and it's something that I've done a lot of research into.
Oh, maybe I'll have to pick your brain after the show. There's actually there's an animation studio that I caught their eye at a Comic-Con. He gave me his card. So I'd have to crowdfund for that, because I mean, comic books are expensive, but so is animation. Animation's pretty pricey. But I would love to don't you think that if I could animate the bear scene where he wakes up Big James and there's the chase, and just to the point where he swipes out the leg of Diana Prince and stop there, like that would be a great trailer, or like a teaser.
Exactly. And I think that's a strategy that I would pursue. I think it would be worthwhile to invest in just one scene.
Yeah.
Super short. Pay somebody to animate it, do the one scene, and then throw out that trailer out there, and then advertise that will build traction. And then that traction you can then sell to, whether it's Netflix, Amazon, whatever, and be like, clearly there's a fan base.
Because if you watched Castlevania, on Netflix, like if that animation studio wants to animate Path of the Pale Rider,
all right, putting it out there for if anybody with the Castlevania team is looking for their next major success, Path of the Pale Rider. Like, make sure I point it the right way. Yeah. Awesome.
Over here.
So starting off with, we have some great questions, and I think most important question from ML. Are you still doing your Tuesday morning podcast on Wednesdays?
This is a rumor. I don't know how this got started. Well, how did this start? We were on Carissa's show, and then I was on we made a comment about Tuesday Morning Brew on Wednesday.
Yeah, we were on Carissa's show, and I forgot our the other guy that was with us. We were all going through like a conversation of when the podcasts were. And then somebody threw up like Wednesday, even though it was Tuesday. It's literally called the Tuesday Morning Podcast. And that's just joke.
I've had people try to book the show and then change the date where they're like, "Oh, can I do your podcast? But maybe we can move it to Wednesday." And I'm like,
it's Tuesday morning.
It's Tuesday morning brew. It's live on
Is it
Tuesday.
the Wednesday morning brew?
Yeah.
No.
So then
for anyone who's still confused, the Tuesday morning podcast is on Saturday. No, I'm just messing.
Sorry, I had to yell at the children. They're being obnoxious. Sorry.
You're like, I'm trying to tell people when the Tuesday morning podcast
screaming
airs.
In the hallway, trying to make sure they understand that the Tuesday morning brew is on Tuesday morning. Not on Wednesday evening on Jared's show. That's Jared's show.
I know that like cracked me up. I had to do that.
It was funny.
Okay.
I was like, wait, your people have that joke too? I was like, because I'm here on a Wednesday and they're joking about the Tuesday morning brew.
By the way, I saw a really sweet comment from Marcella. Marcella's like, "Good night, sweet Prince."
I know.
I was playing that on the inside. I
know.
Oh wait, but creatures can't die. Won't Prince come back then?
There is a possibility. We did not see her. She just was a smear, so we could see her again.
That's right. Oh man, yeah. I had so many questions.
Preface, because like people back the story and they don't really know what I have intended for that issue. But when people I know that are like horse people get started, and I'm like, listen, this is upsetting for a lot of reasons, but for you, it's going to be more upsetting. I'm like, so I'm like, please don't come for me. But just be prepared that there is some, horse violence in this.
And I think what's very interesting, Laurie, before I pull up this next question, I think what you've done, which is very clever, and I think if there's one thing for somebody to take away about the type of story that you've created, is you've started a conversation that allows anybody to be involved. And the conversation specifically is around death and what happens to things when they don't die. Right. And I think that has it has like a mysterious element to it. It has a human aspect, and there's so many things people can find relatable to it, but then trying to understand and ask questions because they want to know more. So I think that concept in itself is incredibly unique and very well done.
What's funny is because since I wrote it in 2018 and we didn't publish until 2020, the script and the story has been rattling around in my brain for years. So when I ran my first campaign and people were just starting to find out about Path of the Pit Rider, I got a ton of questions like, what happens to this? And what happens to that? And how does this work? And do we have a new class of people that we can discriminate? And, I knew all the answers to everything because I had written it so long ago. So it was fun to sit there and talk about all the different possibilities within Path of the Pale Rider, all the ethical questions that come up, the existential questions that come up. It's no horses were harmed in the making of this comic. Yeah.
I love that. Oh, I absolutely love that.
Sorry. And that's why I say I drink your tears. You think it's over? It's not. Issue 5 just dropped. I will drink your tears on that one too.
Awesome. And definitely keep your questions coming. What questions do you have for Laurie, whether it's about Path of the Pale Rider, about the death aspect in this world, or about crowdfunding? So this next question I have for you, Laurie, is about crowdfunding over from Juanita's Creative Corner. Do you have to already have a social media following to have a crowdfunding campaign?
You don't, but it will help you if you do. You can take a case like Eric July. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, where he was a podcaster on YouTube and he had 1 million followers. And instead of taking his comic book to Kickstarter, he just did direct sales, and he made over $1 million in sales on this comic book because he had a social media following. So if you are intending on Kickstartering sometime in the future, the best thing that you can do is start now. Start a social media platform or start talking about your product from now. And then, so when I interview people on the Tuesday Morning Brew, again, that show's not really about me, but I always start the show with 5 minutes about me. So I'm always, we're going to talk to a guest today. I'm super excited. Jared's going to be on. He's a writer, he's a creative, and he's a podcaster. But before we get started, let me tell you where Path of the Pale Rider is. and I fill everybody in and I talk about Path of the Pale Rider just for 2 minutes to 5 minutes. But I always use that as an opportunity to just keep people in touch with what I'm doing. So I always suggest having a social media platform, but start creating that buzz. If you are going to Kickstarter, you should have a pre-launch link, which means that you are approved and ready to launch 60 days before you launch your very first campaign. Build buzz for 60 days where you are constantly, intentionally trying to get your word out about it. So not just like, oh, in between this and the other, I'm posting on someone's stuff like, hey, did you know they were going to be launching on February 5th, at 7 p.m., and this is what we're doing. And this is some of the cool stuff you're going to see, and 10% off on your first day, and early bird specials there, and check out these there's so many things that you can talk about on a daily basis to start building that buzz. So, but if it's your very first campaign, give yourself 2 months prior to launch to build buzz consistently.
And I think that same advice, Laurie, definitely applies to any author or creator who's launching anything. Whether it's a book launch, whether it's a TV series, whether a movie, whether a graphic novel, anything. I think having that time to be able to market it, put yourself on podcasts, throw it out on social media, I think is very invaluable. I think for somebody who doesn't have a social media following, then that means if I didn't have a social media following and I was just starting, I would then go try to be on other people's podcasts.
Yeah. And Pops Manzant is in the chat from the Madness Comic Network. That's all that he does. And so if people are looking for podcasts to go on, get a hold of that man. He has 40 shows.
Get a hold of me if you're looking to create buzz. It is what I do. And this is my question, because I know this is the comic network. What if you're not a comic creator?
Doesn't matter. We love to have that's just the name of the network. Like I've said on the Tuesday Morning Brew, I've had actors, actresses, novelists, ventriloquists, musicians. If you're a creative, there's a ton of podcasts out there that want to talk to you. And again, I talk a lot to comic creators. That's what, what our base is. But when I bring someone in who is completely different, I feel like I get more viewers. Everybody wants to see, who's this person? You know what I mean? Like, what do they do? Oh my gosh,
Which
so
I love.
It's fresh meat, they want to see who it is. But yeah, but the Madness is just one example of a network, and we have like draw streams, and we have interview shows, and we have comedic shows. You can be on a show with me where I have a blonde wig on and I roast you as Karen. I mean, there's just so many different opportunities for people to promote their stuff out there. You just have to go ask.
Exactly. And you won't know until you ask.
Yeah.
And you won't be able to ask until you research.
Right.
So you have to research and go out there and find places.
How you ask too. Because when I approach a new show, I'm like, hi, I'm Laurie Calcaterra. I'm a writer creator of comic books. Here's a few images from my comic series Path of the Pale Rider. I give him my elevator pitch. I say I'm looking to promote my Kickstarter campaign, which is live from this date to this date. What does your calendar look like? What days can I come on? I don't ask if I can come on, I ask when I can come on.
And I think that's very, very powerful. That's actually something I can resonate with as well, especially since I host authors and writers and people on this stream. And I think being intentional with what do you want to, what is like the thing that you're trying to do? Are you trying to be somewhere because you want to promote your next book, your crowdfunding campaign, or whatever? Are you looking somewhere? Are you trying to be somewhere to share knowledge? I think trying to be clear with what your value proposition is very helpful.
And it depends on the show. Like I've gone on shows where they're like, hey, we're not a Kickstarter show. I'm like, that's cool. I just want to stay relevant in between, my campaigns. And they're like, what, we talk about crowdfunding. I'm like, great. I could come in and talk about that. It's like, we could talk about writing. We could talk about movies. So there's other things that you can go on and talk about where they get to know you.
I think something that works very well, and I created this with my my press kit a while back, is I think for anybody who's just like, maybe they don't have a big social media following, I would create a bullet point list of like, hey, I could talk about any of these topics, maybe give a little bit of of your experience than also what you're looking for. So I think creating that clear, like, oh, I could talk about writing, or I could talk about social media or books or crowdfunding or whatever. I think that helps, especially for bigger podcasts where they probably get a lot of requests and they're higher in demand.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yep. And then it's just, you ask to come on and see what they say. Sometimes they're booked out for a far time, like my show. I'm like, you could book a show in February.
Yeah, that's usually what ends up happening when I start booking out for this podcast. I'm always surprised. There's so much interest in it, and I could easily book out 3 months, 4, 6, half the year if I really wanted to, which I think super, super awesome. George said, and Crazy Dad's chiming in, promoting.
George is an interesting guy. So his son writes a series called The Fog Within and was on the show, and George was in the comments, and George is super passionate and is a comic book collector. And it's so cool to see him go on this journey with his son, because George isn't he doesn't do comics, but his son does.
His son is okay.
You know what I mean? So he's living vicariously, but
it's
just
George, it sounds like you're learning how to be the publicist for your son's work.
But he's so passionate about it too, and from such a good place, and always so positive. So I always appreciate George. George, you're always welcome. Always welcome.
I know Marcella asked a great question. Madness Comic, do you shout out comics and graphic novels for all ages? Mine is for girls either 9 to 12 or 10 to 14. Madness, those are my favorite kind to promote. I have 4 grandkids, always looking for stuff for them. So very cool. So anybody in our audience, or if you're here in the live stream or watching on the replay and you're looking for a networking, or you're looking for some promo, reach out over to Madness Comic Network. They sound very, very cool. And it sounds like, Laurie, you've been working with them for a little while now.
Yeah. Awesome. Tuesday Morning Brew, I'm over I lost track of how many episodes I'm on. I'm over 100. So I've been doing it for a little while, and I was a regular guest on that show before I took it over as host. So George is a good father. Sean is a great writer too. So if you have a chance to check out The Fog Within, that's a great series. So, but yeah, I've been, sorry.
Awesome. No, you're totally all good.
Shiny things. The kids are yelling in the background. I'm distracted.
So this is another really great question. I know this can sometimes apply towards authors or creators, but one of our users, and it looks like it's Sarah over from Facebook. Do you have any recommendations for somebody who might be writing under a pen name, or somebody who doesn't want to promote, who doesn't want to be on camera? Because that's hard. How can I go on a podcast if I don't want to show my face?
That is hard. I'm not sure how you would, because I guess you'd have to have social media under your pen name. You can do StreamYards. Let me show you, where it just has an avatar. So you could so you could
totally do that.
Yeah, that's what Pop said too. You can hide behind your avatar. So you could build a social media platform under your pen name and just use your avatar if you don't want to show your face. Carissa had a pen name when she started. She was,
and a lot of authors write under pen names. I think then your strategy is a little different. I would play into articles. I would play into I would play into the types of podcasts where they do interviews, but they all post it through articles. There are a lot of written podcasts where they'll launch it and they need content for their website or their podcast. It's a different style, but writing is just as popular. There are so many people out there who just want to read interviews to learn more. You would do a lot of social posting. I think that it's just a different strategy.
It would have to be. And from my own experience, that to me, I'd have to think about that, because I find that when I do podcasts as Laurie and I talk about Path of the Pale Rider, that people are not just getting the story, but they're buying me.
Exactly. And I'm the same way with you, Laurie. We're used to being in front of a crowd, in front of our camera, and in front of people. And I think we recognize that it's really building up a relationship with the community, with other people, to be successful. But there are a lot of authors under pen names who do it very well. Absolutely. You have to build the trust up differently as compared to you see my face on camera.
Right. That's an interesting, I didn't think about that. So,
Madness is like, hide behind your avatar.
Yeah, that's what I said. So I was like, well, you could do an interview just from behind the avatar.
And that could be another thing. Like, I don't use my real
me.
name, at least not until I started the business.
Yeah.
George was like, Lester Dent wrote 186 Doc Savage stories as Kenneth Robertson. So it can be done. I think it's just researching what's the right strategy for you, Sarah.
I don't know. Stephen King didn't he have he was Richard Bachman for a while.
He did do a number of stories under Richard Bachman, but I think he also did branded to Stephen King. It's funny you bring Stephen King up. He's been popping up in our conversations almost every other week now on this channel.
Really
interesting.
That's funny. He's been on my mind because I've been rebinding books, and I've been well. Remember Christopher Brown? I'm going to show off his book. So I got a couple here. Cool. Come on, focus.
There we go.
What's up with the camera? So he wrote this book called Slaughterville, and on one of his Kickstarter campaigns, he put in, these are custom. So I haven't glued them together yet. So they come out, but you can see like I have decorative paper in there.
That is so cool. But Laurie, that's so you do, is that something you do as a side thing of doing custom bookbinding?
Yeah. I started with my own book where I did these minis. In fact, I didn't keep one for myself. I sent mine to Pops Van Zant. But yeah, I learned how to rebind books. I learned how to print and to cut. I bought myself a guillotine. I was like, oh, my guillotine's here. My husband's like, excuse me. I was like, oh, I ordered it from Amazon. It's okay. You can order anything from Amazon these days. But yeah, so these were a hardcover originally when he sent them to me, and I ripped off the hardcover, and then I glued in the decorative pages, and then it has mull, and then I rebound it with the book cloth, and then they got to pick their colors of their binding and their logo and stuff. And I did the spine. I have to do the backs yet, but I had to order some more HTV.
That is so cool. I'm so inspired by that.
Glue it all in.
What made you decide? What is that like a thing you do for authors and artists through something like Etsy, or is it just
starting to offer it? Because I just learned this year. I was on TikTok watching people rebind books, and I was like, I really want to do that. So I experimented on my own books first and made sure I was good enough to do it to start offering. So Chris is actually the first one that is the guinea pig, where I'm doing 10 books for him. And so that's it's been good. And so he'll send those out to his backers, and I might open it up for more people. It works a lot better with novels than it does for comic books, because those floppies, you can't really rebind them.
Harder.
Yeah, and I even did my own. It's my trade paperback I rebound, but this is so cool. It was difficult because of how big it is comparatively to like a novel. You know what I mean? It's much bigger. So the decorative paper doesn't come in this size. So I had to get creative. But this was really cool. And this was the first time I did like an internal bookmark. So it has a bookmark on the inside. And of course it's bear claws because Big James.
Oh, that is so cool.
So it has like its own bookmark in it and stuff. So yeah. So I experiment on my own stuff in case I ruin it. I'm not ruining someone else's book. But I've done a few other ones, and those are on my TikTok. So if you guys follow my TikTok, you'll see me rip apart books and make them into something extra beautiful. Shelf candy.
Well, that is something that's really, really cool, Laurie. Thank you for sharing that. I absolutely love that. I think Madness had a really important question.
Madness?
Do dead things procreate?
No, you know better. They're dead. They can't procreate. It doesn't work. Nothing works. There's no heartbeat. There's no blood flowing. What about Lola? Do dead things? And what about Lola? No. Just wait until you read 5. You'll see Lola differently. And what you think?
Oh God.
Find out.
You're like, hint. You're gonna have to check out the next issue to learn more.
Yeah. She's in issue 5. People knew she was gonna be in issue 5, but she's not happy. It's not a happy thing. Just clarifying for the kinks. Now, I did a whole podcast conversation about that, about how it works and how undead sex can only go one way. because there ain't no heartbeat. So things don't, I'll put this politely. Things don't stand
Mhm.
up. Things don't stand up, but there's still a bunch of lube. So
which this next question, just the irony of like, all right, we're gonna talk about kink and lubes and procreation and death. We're gonna go switch to a young adult children's question.
Oh, good.
All right, so Marcel's asking, most crowdfunded comics are for adults or maybe young adult, but what if you want to publish graphic novels for kids like I do? How do you market them without coming off as creepy?
I don't see why you would come off as creepy. There is a whole market for
because you're generally marketing to a much younger audience.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about if it's a young enough audience and they might not have the resources yet to buy for them, then essentially they go to the parents and the parents are going to buy. So technically you're probably marketing to, it's like a cross between the kids and then the parent, whoever you think is going to spend the money.
Marcella, I'm going to recommend that you reach out to local libraries and do shows there, because parents are always looking for new books for their kids to read. I love finding all age appropriate books for my kids. There's a few out there that I like there's An Alien in My Toilet and Mittens. And I just ordered not too long ago The Dragon Child. So they're out there, but I find that when I've done library shows before, and I'm hit or miss because mine are not all age appropriate, but the all age appropriate books do great at the local library when they do shows. So that's a nice way to get your name out there. Some libraries will ask you for a free copy and they'll put it into circulation. So that's another great way. But yeah, you can still you totally can market and do an all ages graphic novel. 100%. They're out there. I've seen them and they are successful. Now, we've seen that boobs on the internet is a thing. Unfortunately, the Kickstarters are always going to lean that way for adult content. That's just how it is. I have that challenge as well because my story really isn't promiscuous. But yeah, you just you grin and bear it and you persevere. But check out the local libraries because I think they could really help you as a resource.
Madness making a great point. You're still selling to parents, but you make it something the kids want. And if I can promote kids' books and nobody calls me creepy, you can too. So hopefully that helps you out a little bit, Marcella. And with that brings us to a wrap on the Q&A segment.
Yay! But thanks, everybody.
Before we close out the show, I always have to ask all of my guests one final question. All right. So assuming, and I'll preface this with assuming we're in our world, our current state of world, the real world.
The real world. Which is pretty much Path of the Pale Rider anyway. Yes, I follow.
Tomorrow was your last chapter in the book of life. You got hit by a car, a bus, and you did not come back to life and did not survive. What quote, message, or philosophy would you leave for the writers or community of the world?
Get to work. That's it. Just get to work. I mean, I could wax poetic. It was like, you know what? There's so many things we could say. Kiss your babies, get out there and put in the good fight. But all of it comes down to get to work. Tell us your story. Tell us what you want. Put it out there. Whatever you're working on, we want to see it. But in order for it to get out there, you got to get to work. Get to work.
I absolutely love that, Laurie. Thank you so much for sharing. And thank you for joining me today. This has been an incredible conversation. I know sometimes the podcast hits that 2-hour mark, and I always feel like I could have 100 more questions, and this could be like a full day thing.
Yeah.
So I just want to say thank you for taking time out of your schedule to come chat with me today.
Thanks for having me on. I was really looking forward to this. And like I said, I'm not campaigning right now. So this was just a lovely conversation where we got to hang out and pick brains and talk comics and talk Kickstarters. And I love it. I love doing this. I love supporting the indie community. come watch me on my show in the Tuesday Morning Brew this week. I have Any One World Showcase on Wednesdays, and every other week you can watch me be just a jerk to people as Killer Karen.
And once again, where can any of our community find you if they want to come search you out?
Facebook, Instagram, just head to my LinkedIn link in the show notes. It has everything. I'm on X, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Threads occasionally. But again, my shows are a great way to interact and be part of the chat and be part of the community and see what's popping in indie comics. So Tuesday Morning Brew every week, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time is a 2-hour block where we interview any creators, all walks of life. Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time is Any One World, where I interview the Any One World creators. And I've also done launch streams, and I've also done book reviews on there. And then Killer Karen is every other Friday at 7 p.m. And if you just want to laugh and not take life seriously, that's what that one's about. Yeah.
Awesome. And Laurie, I know you're always doing so much. So thank you for joining me today. It's been an incredible conversation. Best of luck with the next campaign.
Thank you. And it'll be in February is when we're going to run next.
Ooh, February. So we'll have to have you back in February when it's getting close to promoting and launching. And thank you. I'm going to close out the show, but thanks again for joining me today. All right, my friends, as we hit creative writing on the morrow, thank you so much for joining us. If you don't want the conversation to end and you're like, hey, I want something else to watch, down in the YouTube description, one of our previous podcast episodes, how can you be an authentic author brand in 2024? It was an incredible conversation with one of our guests. So definitely go check it out. Great video. And don't forget, as you're leaving, tap that like button on your way out. Help us show the algorithm that writing streams are cool. All right, my friends, thank you all for joining. I loved having a lot of you from Laurie's network, and I loved meeting a lot of you. Madness, thank you for joining us. Let's see. Marcella, don't wait for tomorrow if you don't have to, because tomorrow isn't guaranteed. George Wood, live to serve to live. Madness Comic, question everything, follow the money. That is what my dad said to me and sticks with me. Thank you all for joining us today. It has been a great conversation. ML, thank you. Marcella, thank you. And I know we saw a couple others, Pity Ma, and many others. I'll be back tomorrow for our Casual Monday Update live stream. We are doing a lot with the Right Now community. We're actually currently writing a story together it's a choose your own adventure style as we're writing the story. You can get an inspired by credit by just showing up to the streams. You can get a writing credit to write it. You can get an art credit if you want to draw artwork for it. We are creating the story, which is now, oh man, we just came up with we retitled it yesterday, called oh god, I should have written it down. It's called Pause. I was like, I should have had the name set. The story we've decided it's called The God's Favorite Cat Toy, a Hermes the cat tale as he lives on his last life and he is haunted by the 8 ghosts of his former lives and terrorized when Hermes just wants to be left alone. So come join us. That's every single Saturday for the month of November, and come write the story with us. But unfortunately, that brings us to the end of the stream. Don't forget, words are wind, but stories are forever. I'm Kauffman, and I'll catch you on the morrow. Stay creative, writers.